Aging. It's something we all face, yet so few of us are prepared for the uncomfortable truths that come with it. As the years pass, the changes in our bodies and minds are inevitable. But did you know that some of these changes can make those around us feel uneasy? That's right. While we often talk about the joys of growing older, the habits that come with aging can leave others feeling, well, a little uncomfortable. But here's the thing. These habits are never intentional. They're part of life's natural progression, and yet no one really talks about them openly. In this video, we're going to uncover 12 of the most surprising and often overlooked habits that can make others uncomfortable. And believe me, some of these you've probably never even considered. Now, I know this might sound a bit dramatic, but stick with me. We're not here to judge anyone or point fingers. The truth is, understanding these habits not only helps us become more mindful of how we interact with others, but also empowers us to make changes that can improve the way we live our later years. Whether you're already in your golden years or simply want to prepare for what's to come, this video will give you the insight you need to navigate this inevitable stage of life with grace and confidence. By the end of this video, you'll understand why these habits develop, how they affect your relationships, and most importantly, what you can do to make sure your aging years are as joyful and connected as possible. You'll be surprised at how small adjustments can have a big impact. So why should you stick around for the next few minutes? Because what we're about to discuss may just change the way you see aging. It's time to shine a light on those little things we often overlook or sweep under the rug. If you've ever wondered why someone seems to distance themselves when you talk about your health, or why a casual conversation feels awkward, you might just find the answer here. These 12 habits are more common than you think, and you deserve to know what they are and how to address them. This isn't about feeling bad or guilty about the changes that come with age. It's about awareness. It's about taking control of your own habits so you can live with dignity, respect, and most of all, connection. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and let's dive into the 12 habits in old age that might make people uncomfortable, but that no one tells you about. You might just find that your next step towards a more fulfilling life starts right here, right now. Before we talk about the first habit, let's take a moment to reflect on how we approach our health, especially as we age. Health issues are real, and they can sometimes feel overwhelming. It's natural to want to talk about what's bothering you, whether it's an ache, a new diagnosis, or just the daily struggles of living with a chronic condition. But here's the thing, constantly complaining about your health can start to take a toll on the people around you. They may genuinely care about your well-being, but when the focus is always on health complaints, it can create a sense of negativity that drags everyone down. You see, when someone is constantly sharing their health issues, it's easy for conversations to shift into a cycle of complaint. And while it's important to be able to talk about what's going on, the repetitive nature of these complaints can start to overshadow the rest of the relationship. The more you focus on what's wrong, the more you become trapped in a mindset of illness and limitation. Over time, it can leave others feeling helpless or frustrated because they can't fix what's going on, and they may not know how to offer support anymore. But here's the truth. While health problems are of course real and deserve attention, dwelling on them too much can create a barrier to positive experiences and meaningful interaction. It's almost like you get caught in a loop where your health becomes the lens through which you view everything, and it becomes hard for others to connect with you in any other way. Friends and family might begin to distance themselves, not out of a lack of care, but because they feel they're being constantly reminded of something they have no control over. Instead of dwelling on health complaints, try shifting your focus towards solutions, or even the small victories in your day. Instead of saying, "I'm always in pain," maybe share, "I found a new exercise that helps ease my pain." Instead of complaining about a doctor's visit, talk about the steps you're taking to improve your health, no matter how small they may seem. Focusing on solutions not only makes you feel empowered, but also allows others to be a part of your journey in a more positive way. Sharing moments of joy, no matter how small, can help break the cycle of negativity. Maybe you enjoyed a beautiful walk in the park, or had a conversation with a friend that lifted your spirits. These are the moments worth sharing, because they show that despite the challenges, you're still finding ways to enjoy life. It reminds others that you're more than your health struggles, and that there's more to you than just the pain or discomfort. By focusing on the positive, you're not only lifting your own spirits but also the spirits of those around you. It creates a more balanced relationship, one where you're not defined by your health complaints, but by your ability to cope, find joy, and keep moving forward. It's about striking a balance, acknowledging your health challenges, but also making space for moments that bring positivity and light to your life. This shift can change the dynamic of your relationships and help you maintain a more fulfilling connection with others. Before we move on to the next habit, let's talk about something that can make social interactions a bit awkward: oversharing personal details. As we age, it's natural to reflect on our lives and want to share our experiences with others. But sometimes seniors may unknowingly share too much personal information, which can make others feel uncomfortable. These can range from intimate health details to personal family matters that others may not know how to respond to. While it's important to have people to talk to, it's also crucial to recognize when certain details are best kept private. It's easy to see why oversharing happens. As we get older, there may be fewer people to talk to, and sometimes we just want to feel heard. But when we share too much personal information, especially when it's not appropriate for the moment, it can leave others in an uncomfortable position. They might feel unsure how to react, or even worse, they may feel burdened by the heavy details we've unloaded. This can create a barrier in conversations and leave both parties feeling uneasy. One of the key elements to healthy communication is respecting privacy, not only your own, but also the privacy of others. Sometimes in the process of sharing personal experiences, seniors may inadvertently cross boundaries or disclose things that weren't meant to be shared. It's important to remember that everyone has their own comfort zone when it comes to what they want to know or discuss. If someone isn't ready to hear about your most recent medical condition or your family's struggles, it could make them feel awkward or even invade their own sense of privacy. Respecting those boundaries helps maintain positive, balanced relationships. So how do we strike the right balance? One way is to pay attention to the context of the conversation. Are you in a setting where people expect personal stories, or is it a casual gathering where people are just enjoying each other's company? For instance, a conversation with a close family member might be the right place to talk about health or family dynamics, but a casual gathering with friends or acquaintances may not be the best time for such topics. In those situations, it's wise to keep things light and more general. Instead of diving deep into intimate details, try focusing on shared experiences or common interests. Another piece of advice is to listen to the cues of others. Are they shifting uncomfortably or trying to change the subject? These are signs that you might be oversharing, and it's a good time to steer the conversation in a different direction. If someone asks you a personal question, it's okay to share, but try to do so in a way that's not too overwhelming. You don't have to provide every little detail about your life. Sometimes less really is more. By keeping certain topics in mind when socializing, you help create an environment where everyone feels comfortable and valued. You can still be open and share your experiences, but it's important to be mindful of timing and context. The goal is to foster positive, meaningful connections with others, without unintentionally making them feel uncomfortable. A little bit of discretion can go a long way in keeping conversations enjoyable and maintaining healthy relationships. Before we dive into the next habit, let's take a moment to discuss a common issue many seniors face: being too dependent on others. It's only natural to want support as we age, and there's nothing wrong with needing help. But sometimes the reliance on family and friends for basic needs can become overwhelming for those who are always the ones offering assistance. Over time, this dependency can create a sense of guilt or even resentment in others, especially if they feel like they're shouldering a heavy burden. It's a delicate balance, and finding ways to regain independence can help ease some of this tension. Many seniors, as they age, might start to feel like they can no longer handle things on their own, whether it's managing household chores, running errands, or even dealing with day-to-day tasks. This is understandable, of course. Age can bring challenges, and health or mobility issues might make it harder to do things independently. But sometimes when help is offered too frequently, it can leave others feeling like they're constantly being relied upon, creating an unspoken sense of pressure. Family and friends might feel guilty if they can't offer the help needed, and over time they may even begin to resent the constant requests. It's important to recognize that while support from loved ones is invaluable, it's just as crucial to maintain a sense of autonomy. Dependency, when taken too far, can sometimes rob you of the joy and pride that comes with accomplishing even the smallest tasks on your own. It's not about refusing help when it's truly needed, but about finding ways to remain as independent as possible for as long as possible. The goal is to maintain a sense of dignity and self-worth, which can be empowering for both the senior and those offering the help. One way to regain some independence is by learning or relearning simple skills that might have been neglected over the years. For example, learning how to cook a few easy meals or managing small household tasks can help boost confidence and reduce the need for constant assistance. If mobility is a concern, consider finding adaptive tools or methods that make tasks easier to handle. There are so many resources available that can help seniors regain a level of independence, from home aids to assistive technology. By making small adjustments, you can start doing things for yourself again, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Another important strategy is knowing when it's okay to ask for help and when it might be better to handle things on your own. It's easy to fall into the habit of asking for assistance with every little thing, but this can sometimes lead to burnout for your family or friends. By becoming more aware of what you can manage on your own, you can reduce the frequency of requests and give others a break. If something is truly too difficult, don't hesitate to ask for help, but try to limit these requests to situations that genuinely require assistance. Regaining independence doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means finding a healthy balance. You can still lean on your loved ones when necessary, but by taking small steps to manage your own needs, you can ease the emotional strain on those around you. It's about creating a dynamic where everyone feels respected, valued, and capable of maintaining their own sense of self-worth. Before we move on to the next habit, let's talk about a common issue many seniors face: speaking loud. If you've ever found yourself speaking louder than intended, it could be due to changes in your hearing as you age. As we get older, our hearing can begin to decline, and this can sometimes lead to us raising our voices without realizing it. While it's understandable, it can unintentionally make conversations uncomfortable for those around you. Others might feel like they're being shouted at, even if that's not your intention at all. Hearing loss is a natural part of aging for many people, and it can affect the way we perceive sound. When someone has trouble hearing, they might not realize that they're speaking louder than necessary, because they don't hear the volume of their own voice. This can lead to awkward situations, especially in quiet settings like restaurants or during family gatherings. What's meant to be a casual conversation can end up feeling like a one-sided announcement, making others feel uncomfortable or even self-conscious. But the good news is that there are ways to be more mindful of your speaking volume. The first step is simply being aware that it might be happening. You might not notice that you're speaking loudly, but others might. So the next time you're in a conversation, take a moment to check in with yourself. Are you raising your voice without meaning to? It's a simple question that can help you adjust before the volume gets too high. If you notice that you're speaking louder than usual, try lowering your voice a little and pay attention to the reaction of those around you. Their body language might give you a clue if they're feeling uncomfortable. Another helpful tip is to adjust your speaking volume depending on the environment you're in. For example, in a quiet room, it's important to keep your voice at a moderate level to avoid sounding too loud. In contrast, in a noisy environment like a crowded restaurant or a busy street, you might need to raise your voice slightly to be heard, but be mindful not to go overboard. Being able to adjust based on your surroundings can help keep the conversation comfortable for everyone involved. If you're unsure of your volume, you can also ask the person you're talking to if they can hear you. Sometimes others will let you know if you're speaking too loudly or if they're struggling to hear. If hearing loss is affecting your ability to gauge your voice, you might consider getting a hearing test. Many seniors benefit from hearing aids or other devices that can improve their hearing and help them be more aware of their surroundings. This could help reduce the chances of unintentionally raising your voice, allowing for more comfortable and natural conversations. Speaking loudly doesn't have to be a source of discomfort for others, but it's important to remain aware of how your voice might be perceived. Small adjustments can make a big difference in maintaining smooth and enjoyable conversations, whether you're talking to family, friends, or even strangers. By simply being conscious of your volume and adjusting it to suit the situation, you can ensure that your words come across in a more considerate and respectful way. Before we dive into the next habit, let's talk about a tendency that can develop as we age: becoming set in our way. As we grow older, it's natural to feel more confident in the choices we've made over the years. We've lived through a lot, and it's easy to become comfortable with how things have always been done. But this comfort can sometimes turn into stubbornness, where we resist new ideas or changes, even if they might make our lives easier or better. Being set in our ways isn't always a bad thing. It can be a reflection of a life well lived, where we've figured out what works best for us. However, there can be a downside. When we become too attached to our routines and ways of thinking, we may miss out on opportunities to improve or make things easier. For example, a senior who's been using a particular method for managing their health for years may resist trying a new medication or treatment because they feel the old way is working fine, even when it may not be as effective as it once was. This can be frustrating for family members or friends who genuinely want to help, but find their suggestions dismissed without consideration.
The problem with stubbornness is that it can close us off from new possibilities. The world is always changing, and sometimes change brings about positive solutions we hadn't thought of. But if we're too resistant, we might not give these new ideas a chance. It can also create tension in relationships. When others feel like their efforts to help are constantly being rejected, they may start to feel discouraged or even resentful. They might wonder why their suggestions or ideas are not being taken seriously, which can lead to feelings of frustration and disconnect. The good news is there's always room to practice open-mindedness. No matter how set in our ways we've become, being flexible doesn't mean abandoning the things that matter most to us. It simply means being open to trying new things and considering different perspectives. For example, if a family member suggests a new way to organize your home for better accessibility, it's worth giving it a try, even if it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable at first. You might find that it works better than your old method. Small changes like this can make a big difference in the quality of life, and being open to them shows a willingness to adapt and improve. Flexibility can also foster better relationships. When we're open-minded, we create an environment where everyone feels heard and valued. Instead of shutting down ideas, we can encourage a collaborative approach, where we consider options together and find solutions that work for everyone. This can deepen connections and bring about a sense of shared understanding, making it easier to work together as a team. Stubbornness is something that can be softened with time and effort. It's about balancing our wisdom and experience with a willingness to embrace change. By staying open to new ideas, we not only improve our own lives, but also strengthen the bonds we share with those who care about us. Before we move on, let's talk about a habit that can unintentionally hurt communication: interrupting conversations. It's something that can happen in the heat of the moment, especially when we feel eager to share our thoughts. But when we interrupt others, it can make them feel unheard or disrespected. In group settings, where multiple people are trying to speak, interrupting can disrupt the flow of the conversation and leave others feeling frustrated or dismissed. When someone is interrupted, it often feels like their thoughts aren't valued. They might feel rushed, like they don't have the opportunity to fully express themselves, or even that their opinions don't matter. This can be particularly difficult in family gatherings or social settings, where everyone wants to be involved, but the constant interruptions can make it hard to build a meaningful exchange. What was meant to be a conversation turns into a series of one-sided exchange. To improve communication and make others feel heard, it's important to wait for the right moment to speak. Instead of jumping in immediately when a thought comes to mind, try pausing for a moment to ensure the person has finished their point. A good rule of thumb is to give a few seconds of silence after someone stops speaking before responding. This brief pause not only shows that you're listening, but it also gives the conversation room to breathe, allowing others to speak freely without fear of being cut off. By practicing patience and allowing everyone a chance to finish their thoughts, conversations become more respectful and enjoyable. It creates a more inclusive environment where everyone's voice is valued. Before we move on, let's discuss a habit that can sometimes cause tension in relationships: being overly critical. As we age, it's natural to develop a strong sense of what's right or wrong, especially when we've seen so much change over the years. However, this can sometimes lead to a tendency to criticize others, particularly younger generations, for their choices, behaviors, or lifestyle. While the intention might be to offer guidance or advice, it can often come across as judgmental or dismissive, which can create discomfort in family or social gatherings. When criticism is constant, it can begin to feel less like helpful advice and more like an attack. The younger generation might feel like they're being unfairly judged or that their efforts are not being appreciated. This can lead to frustration, resentment, and even distance in relationships. Instead of fostering understanding, constant criticism can create a divide between generations, making it harder for people to connect and communicate openly. If you find yourself offering feedback, it's important to approach it constructively. Rather than pointing out what's wrong or how someone else is failing, try focusing on positive solutions. For example, instead of saying, "You're always wasting time on your phone," consider saying, "I think it might be helpful to balance screen time with some activities that get you moving or engaged with others." This way, you're offering guidance without placing blame or sounding overly critical. It also opens the door for a more open conversation where everyone feels respected and heard. By being mindful of how we offer feedback, we can avoid creating unnecessary tension and instead foster a supportive, understanding environment where both younger and older generations can learn from each other. Before we move forward, let's talk about a habit that's common as we age: forgetting some social etiquette. As time goes on, it's easy to get comfortable with the people around us and forget the little things that make interactions smoother and more pleasant. Social norms like saying please and thank you or respecting personal space may slip through the cracks, especially when we're dealing with family or close friends. But these small gestures can make a big difference in how we connect with others. Forgetting social etiquette doesn't mean we're being rude or disrespectful. It's often just a result of getting older and not always being as conscious of these small details. However, it's important to remember that these norms help maintain harmony in relationships and create an environment of respect. When we forget to say please or thank you, it can unintentionally make others feel unappreciated. Similarly, not respecting personal space can make people feel uncomfortable, even if that's not the intention. Staying mindful of these social norms doesn't have to be difficult. A simple way to maintain good etiquette is to check in with yourself during interaction. Before speaking or asking for something, pause for a moment and consider how it might come across. Are you using polite language, like saying please or thank you? Are you aware of the other person's personal space and body language? If you're not sure, it's okay to ask people for gentle reminders. Most people will appreciate your effort to stay considerate. By being mindful of these small but important aspects of social interaction, you can continue to create positive, respectful connections with others, making every conversation and interaction smoother and more enjoyable for everyone involved. Before we move on, let's address a habit that can often lead to a drain in energy: being too negative or pessimistic. As we age, it's natural to face challenges that can make us feel down, but sometimes that can turn into a tendency to view situations with a glass half empty mentality. When everything feels like a struggle or seems to be going wrong, it can be easy to focus on the negative side of things, but constantly expressing negativity can affect not only your own mood, but also the people around you. When someone always focuses on the bad, it can create a heavy atmosphere in social interactions. Friends and family might begin to feel like they're walking on eggshells, unsure of how to respond, or if anything positive will ever be acknowledged. This kind of energy can drain conversations and leave others feeling exhausted or disheartened. While it's important to acknowledge challenges, it's equally crucial to balance them with positive moments and an optimistic outlook. One way to shift this habit is to consciously make an effort to focus on the positives. It can be something small, like appreciating the sunshine or a kind gesture from someone else. Finding joy in little things can help lift your spirits and create a more positive atmosphere for everyone around you. Instead of always looking at what's wrong, try to see what's going wrong. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems. It's about changing the focus so you're not constantly overwhelmed by negativity. By embracing a more positive mindset, you not only improve your own outlook on life, but also enhance the quality of your relationship. People are naturally drawn to optimism, and even a small shift in attitude can make a big difference in how enjoyable and uplifting your interactions are. Before we move on, let's talk about a habit that many seniors may not even realize they've developed: repeating the same stories over and over. It's completely natural to want to share experiences from the past, especially those that have had a big impact on our lives. However, telling the same story multiple times can sometimes become frustrating for listeners. They may feel like they're hearing the same thing again and again, and this can lead to impatience or disinterest, especially in social gatherings where others may be eager to share their own experiences. The repetition of stories can happen unintentionally. As we get older, our memory sometimes doesn't work as sharply as it once did. It can be difficult to remember if we've already shared a particular story, especially if it's one that holds a lot of meaning to us. The desire to relive those moments and connect with others can make it easy to forget whether the same story has already been told. What might feel like a new interesting anecdote to you may already be familiar to your listeners, and they might start to feel like they're stuck in a loop. For family members or friends listening to the same stories repeatedly, it can create frustration. They may begin to feel like they're not being fully heard or valued, especially if it seems like their own stories or experiences aren't getting the same attention. Over time, the constant repetition of familiar stories can cause conversations to lose their spark, and instead of feeling like a warm sharing moment, they might feel more like a monologue. One way to recognize when a story has been told before is by keeping a mental note of the stories you share. It doesn't have to be a detailed record, but you can keep track of the stories you've already shared in casual conversations. For example, when you begin to tell a story, pause for a moment and ask yourself, have I told this one before? This brief moment of reflection can help you stay mindful of the content you're repeating. Another option is to pay attention to the body language or reactions of your listener. If they seem less engaged or look like they've heard the story before, it might be time to change the subject or move on to something new. Additionally, You can try introducing new angles to familiar story. Maybe the story you've told repeatedly has a lesson or experience that can be shared in a different way or connected to something happening in the present. By adding new details or connecting it to current events, you can refresh the story and make it feel more relevant to your listener. If you're unsure whether you've told a particular story already, you could always ask your listeners directly in a playful way. I hope I'm not repeating myself, but did I ever tell you about? This can add a touch of humor and self-awareness to the situation, showing that you care about your audience's experience. Ultimately, the key is to stay mindful and try to keep the conversation fresh and engaging for everyone involved. Repeating stories is a natural part of aging, but with a little awareness, we can ensure that our stories remain as impactful and meaningful as the first time we told them.
Before we move on to the next habit, let's talk about something that often comes from a place of love, but can sometimes go too far. Being overly protective of family. As parents and grandparents, it's natural to want the best for your children or grandchildren, and wanting to shield them from harm or hardship is instinctive. However, as time goes on, some seniors might find themselves overstepping boundaries by being too protective, constantly hovering or making decisions on behalf of others, even when it's no longer necessary. Being overly protective can take many forms. For instance, a grandparent might feel the need to step in when their child or grandchild faces a challenge, offering unsolicited advice or attempting to fix the situation, even if it's something they could handle on their own. While the intentions behind this behavior are often good, it can unintentionally undermine the autonomy of those involved. When we don't allow others to make their own decisions or face their own struggles, it can prevent them from growing and learning from their experiences. This can create friction in relationships, as the people being protected may start to feel smothered, disrespected, or even resentful. This can also cause tension between generations, especially if the younger generation feels like their independence is being restricted. It can be difficult for children or grandchildren to maintain their own sense of identity and responsibility if they're constantly being watched over or told what to do. It can also lead to a lack of trust, where they feel like they're not trusted to make their own decisions or judgments. So how can we show love and care while respecting the autonomy of our family members? The key is balance. It's important to offer advice and help when it's genuinely needed, but also recognize when it's time to step back and allow others to take the lead. One way to do this is by asking questions instead of giving instructions. For example, instead of saying, "You should do it this way," try asking, "Is there anything I can help you with? Or have you considered trying it this way?" This opens up space for them to make decisions while still feeling supported and loved. Another approach is to be mindful of when your family members need space to handle things on their own. It's perfectly okay to let your children or grandchildren face challenges without stepping in to fix everything. Let them know you're there for support, but give them the freedom to manage their own affairs, even if they make mistakes along the way. These experiences are valuable for their growth and development, just as they were for you when you were in their shoes. Finally, communication is crucial. Talk openly with your family about your desire to help and protect them, but also listen to their feelings. Understand that they might need more space and independence, and try to find a healthy balance between offering support and respecting their boundaries. By allowing your loved ones to grow, make decisions, and learn from their own experiences, you not only foster a sense of independence in them, but also strengthen the trust and respect between you. Ultimately, showing love doesn't always mean doing everything for them. It's about giving them the room to thrive while knowing they have your unconditional support when they need it. Before we move on, let's explore a habit that can quietly erode relationships over time. Holding on to grudges. It's understandable to feel hurt or upset when we've been wronged, especially by those we care about. However, carrying that bitterness around year after year can weigh heavily on our hearts and minds. Holding on to past conflicts or unresolved issues doesn't just affect our own peace of mind. It can also lead to strained relationships, making it difficult to connect with others in a meaningful way. When we hold grudges, we often replay past events over and over in our minds, letting anger, resentment, and frustration take root. This emotional burden can create a wall between us and the people involved, making it hard to move forward and rebuild trust. Over time, this bitterness can spill over into other areas of our lives, making even small misunderstandings feel larger than they are. The longer we hold on to negative emotions, the harder it becomes to let go and heal, which can prevent us from enjoying the present moment in the relationships we still have. The key to breaking free from this cycle is forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened or excusing the behavior. It simply means choosing to release the grip that past conflicts have on us. It's about finding peace within ourselves, letting go of the negative emotions and opening the door to healthier, more positive connections with others. Holding on to grudges only keeps us tied to the past, but forgiveness allows us to move forward, fostering deeper understanding and stronger relationships. Letting go is not always easy, but it's essential for personal peace. By choosing to forgive, we free ourselves from the chains of resentment and make room for healing and growth. As we wrap up, it's important to remember that these habits are not a judgment, but rather natural behaviors that many seniors may develop over time without realizing how they impact those around them. Aging brings about many changes, and with those changes can come new ways of thinking or acting that may unintentionally affect our relationships. The key is awareness, reflection, and growth. Take a moment to reflect on your own behaviors, not just for the sake of others, but for your own well-being as well. Self-improvement doesn't mean changing who you are. It means being open to recognizing areas where we can be kinder, more understanding, and more mindful in our interaction. It's about nurturing healthier, more fulfilling connections, which ultimately enriches our lives. Let's remember that aging is a complex journey, and none of us should walk it alone. We all have our ups and downs, and supporting each other through these changes is what makes us stronger. Understanding, patience, and empathy go a long way in creating a compassionate environment for everyone. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue to share important insights and tips for navigating the challenges that come with aging. Thank you for watching, and remember, you're not alone in this journey.